Hi, and welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and today we have I Am joining us. He's lost his job. AI is coming in. The singularity is real. Don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. We're going to talk about possibilities. What does the future look like? Is AI a good tool? Will it free us from some of the mundane things? Who knows? We're going to find out what I Am thinks right after this. So give us a like, join us in the live chat. There's some great people giving their thoughts. We want to know what you think. So join in, jump in and join us. Give us a like, share the video. We'll be right back with I Am right after this. Welcome back. I Am. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Good to be here. I'm excited for today, and I missed the last few Mondays. I mean, things have been going on in my life and your life, and
I know it's been busy,
holidays and all that good stuff. And but anyway, and I've been excited about this particular presentation tonight. So
it's very timely. I thought it was pretty wild. I did pull a tweet. I thought it's funny because you will have just the wildest sense of timing on some of these things.
It's my matrix, Lisa. I programmed the whole matrix.
It is. Fine. Your qualia is like spot on, I have to say. Elon Musk tweeted or retweeted or comment. I guess this is a comment. He said singularity is near. On this guy had posted, it's so over. There was an article in Popular Mechanics, and I tried to find the article. I was unable to, but humanity may achieve the singularity within the next 6 months, which is like talking about AI having like sentience, I guess is my understanding. And so, and then for Elon to say singularity is near today, and this, big people are so afraid of technology. I remember being a child and, oh, don't spend too much, they were afraid of the computers. And first they're afraid, don't sit too close to the TV and,
right.
All this fear around technology. And
right. And I remember, the big Schwarzenegger movie that came out, Terminator, and the robot. And that was so scary. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I could see that happening. And everyone going, no way. That's so science fiction, so Hollywood, and it was made out of titanium and all these different things. And the computer screen that it could read, and the green background. It was really ahead of its time, to be honest with you. The movie was. But you look at where we're at today. We're almost seeing the same kind of humanoid, robot doing day-to-day tasks.
And maybe that's what Joe Biden was. We may have had a humanoid robot president for the last 4 years.
I'm going to call that a fail.
That was a big fail, but it did fulfill a role. If you think about a brain dead individual that just signed things, like it just filled a role, it showed up, it said some speeches, and then because of the laws and orders surrounding that role, it just facilitated that role.
Yes.
There were other checks and balances that could have stopped that robot clone thing, if that's what it was.
Or signing pardons.
Yeah, we don't know.
AI still is garbage in, garbage out, or quality posts in, quality information out, right? So it still has that to overcome. But it's interesting that that Elon posted that today, and that we're talking about this today. As a matter of fact, I think it's my second slide right up is I have the definition of singularity and the definition of AGI, or artificial general intelligence.
Okay.
And so that way we have it kind of compartmentalized. There are different people that have different viewpoints of different, and I also put in a metaphor for each. So to just kind of lay the groundwork as we're talking about this subject. But this is a huge subject, I think, too, because there are individuals that are already starting to see job loss or fewer jobs because of AI. And the tech space is getting hit early and quick. And so are middle class and the white collar jobs are going to be the first to be lost or are being lost. And we're going to cover that here in a few too. But the best part is stick to the end, because I believe we have our golden opportunity, and everyone talks about we need a reset. Well, this is it, and this is our opportunity. And actually, now I am much more positive and optimistic, and not black-pilled and dystopian viewpoint of our future with AI, and because it really comes down to what's called a post-labor economics model or theory. And that's what we're going to flow into.
So just like we had an industrial revolution, we may have an AI revolution.
Yes. And then everything will be measured on a post-labor economic model. We've always heard too, we've heard about MMT, that we can endlessly print money. And we all know too that what money is it's kind of it's a pricing mechanism, a transfer of value mechanism. It's a placeholder, like you say, Lisa, too. It's all of these things. But what is it? It is also kind of robbing us of our time, which is our most valuable asset. And right now we work, we have a job, we have a career, we have, we trade our labor for money. And post-labor economics means it's after labor's gone. There is no more labor. What do you replace it with? And that's what we're going to talk about. It gets exciting when you think of it.
I'm excited. Yeah.
So here we go. I guess here was the thumbnail I put together. It's kind of fun. I had Grok help me with these, like, a Tesla robot painting a house, and a Tesla robot changing a tire, Tesla robot cleaning a house, and a driver mowing the lawn. I like the 6-wheeled lawnmower there. It's kind of funny. And then the AI army, patrolling our border. So those are your 6 photos there. But AGI, or artificial general intelligence, is when that human-like cognitive ability, that intellectual capability of learning and solving tasks, becomes easier and quicker over all domains. Like right now, you have a doctor, and you might have a lawyer, and you might have a teacher or a professor, all of these different things. Well, AGI means they're essentially an expert in all of those things, or they have the capability of solving or figuring out anything. So the metaphor I give here is a universal Swiss Army knife, which is adaptive for any job without any specialized tools, because it has general intelligence of everything. And then the singularity moment, which Musk talked about today, and I have to agree, we're very close, is, now this is a different definition than some might think, but it's a hypothetical future point where AI, which like AGI, surpasses human intelligence, which I kind of think it already has that, in that it's plugged into the internet and it has all this information, so it can recall all of this information much more than we can, right? But with that information, singularity means it can lead to a rapid technological growth pattern, or an exponential growth in technology. And so the metaphor here that I give is that it's like a cosmic explosion. It's more than the Industrial Revolution, because it's intelligence that reshaping everything, kind of like a supernova reshapes, all of the planets in its area, or when it goes supernova, it changes everything. It's a radical change. Well, that's what singularity is. But I wanted to kind of define these things, even though we're not going to really talk about them or debate them. It's just to kind of give you an idea, and that I think Elon is right. We are basically at that singularity moment, even though we haven't reached AGI. And you'll understand that when I'm talking about here. But the best part of this is, you guys stick around to the end, because this is not an AI doom podcast.
Right.
I believe that our future is bright, but it's up to us to determine our future. And so I'm not going to be, doom and gloom. Here at the beginning, I'm going to talk about job loss and how AI and humanoid robots are taking over. But stick around, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So, job displacement. We know that AI we know that robots have been taking over manufacturing jobs for decades. We've seen that arm into, welding different things at, let's say a car manufacturing, factory where the car is going down the line and it's welding different spots or painting. Well, we've had robotics and now AI that's taking over these tasks. Goldman Sachs predicted, and this was a while ago, this isn't recent, that 300 million jobs globally could be lost or diminished by AI. Now, 300 million jobs globally is a lot of people without work. And then white collar jobs, because it's almost a top down, versus the blue collar jobs, if we're going to put them at the bottom, which a lot of blue collar jobs now make more money than a white collar job. But 46% of your office and administrative support jobs are going to be gone. And they say 44% of the legal jobs are definitely exposed to AI. So you got to add that into it. And then you add in like the average, white collar earning, person earning $80,000 a year. That is probably going to go away, according to, Penn State. And Axios says that we could see at minimum 50% of the entry-level white-collar jobs being gone. And we're talking about in tech, like programmers, coders, finance, law, consulting. Finance, we always talk about DeFi in the crypto world, right? Well, now you have AI bots trading and AI, making trades that are much more successful than a human. And they're gathering more and more information, and they can react quicker. They can make an analysis and a decision faster and be much more accurate. Mm-hmm. And so within 5 years, they're saying just in the white collar area, we could see a 10 or 20% unemployment of those folks in this country. And we're going to talk, remind me, Lisa, when we talk about 10, 20% unemployment, maybe I'll put a note here, 10%. So I can come back to that. But education job risk, this is huge. Our education is how we educate our children is going to change radically. And we're already seeing it. We're seeing schools, some are allowing it and adopting AI, others are keeping the kids away from it. Don't touch it, don't use it. We need you to learn this. And there's a little bit of pros and against on both aspects, because the child needs to learn, what is 1 + 1 and what are my ABCs and how to read and write. And the child needs to learn, other things, social skills and these kinds of things that maybe AI can't do or an AI agent can't do. But right now we put 35 kids in a classroom and we teach one lesson plan to all of them, and everyone is at a different level of understanding. Every one of them has a different learning style, and AI can make it much more, drill down to the individual.
To the child. Well, and to just go back a second to where you were talking about the law and how AI could be used in all of that. I know my husband just did probate for his mother's estate. And at first we hired an attorney and all of this, and nothing got done. It was a big mess. And he's like, forget it. we were talking with my mom. She's like, she ran title for years doing oil and gas work. She's like, you don't need that. You can do it yourself. And so he literally used AI to create documents, to create the orders, the letters to the judge, the petitions, all of that. And he just looked it up and had Grok or whatever Chat GPT. I don't know what AI he used, multiple, but to create and he would say, Oklahoma statutes for this. I need, whatever. What do I need? Okay. And then he said, here's the information, create this document, and it creates the document. So you don't need, the laws are already there. The information's out there, and the AI can create the document. You don't need the lawyers, or the lawyers don't even do it. They're staff members. I have friends that are paralegals. The lawyers don't do it. The paralegal creates the document they're just like forms that are used over and over and over again. They're blank forms that it's the same form. They're not creating some new magical document that's only tailored to you. These are just over and over. So it's something that's easily replaced by AI. Anything where there's rules in place that can just be filled out like a Mad Lib, that is a job that will be easily replaced with AI.
Right. Imagine someone going into school right now to become a paralegal, and this is right there in that they're going to be competing with.
Well, and pretty much any government job. I mean, anything that has to do with, the driver's license, job things, whatever that's called. I can't remember what that's called, but, any agency, any form creation agency, like all of those jobs are gone.
Yes. You got it. You're exactly right. As well as the school administrators, because now we need less people scheduling, budgeting, compliance monitoring, all of these things. It changes dramatically. And Khan Academy and others are adopting this much faster, and they're showing that they can provide and gamify lesson plans, and they can outperform human teachers. Just as an example of one, which comes back to our middle management problem, or I call it KMM. I think there's a better term for it, but it's keyboard, mouse, and monitor. So the closer you are to being a KMM person and making a living right now, the faster you have the faster you're going to be replaced. You're going to have a higher probability of being replaced. And this typically means middle management. And they typically, right now, middle management has a higher income level. And so they're already being hit first. We're seeing developers, Claude is amazing at writing code right now. And people who don't know how to write code at all can go to Claude and tell them, I want a software that does X, Y, and Z, and it will start writing it for them. And
Claude is a AI, just to let everybody know, that's another like Chat GPT or Grok or whatever. That is a form of AI that is specifically created to write code.
So if you're a KMM person, you're generating reports and you're looking at these reports and you're making an analysis, and then you're typing a new report on the analysis that you made from the previous reports. You see what I mean? That the job is gone. And in the picture I have down here below, I have the cubicle, and on the left we have the kind of the farmers market, but in New York City or Chicago, and how it used to look. Everyone sold their goods on the street, on the main street or something, or how did it used to look? Well, our great grandkids are going to think, what are cubicles? You went to a cubicle and you sat on a chair and you typed on the what? A keyboard? What's that? So it's what we're seeing at the bottom of this slide here is exactly what's going to take place. Those jobs are going to be gone, the KMM personnel. So math, statistics, analysis, and factory management, those jobs are gone as well. The middle management people that monitor the factory and how that's doing. And then more jobs are going to be replaced by robotics within the factory. That's less humans. Those humans don't need a HR person because the robotics don't take a break. They don't need to work, a day off. They don't have a sick day. They don't have a vacation plan. And all the people that have to plan this and manage the performance of an individual as well as monitor the performance of an individual. All of this stuff is getting replaced very quickly, faster than people can imagine. The example there that we see of the car being made, in the 50s, there's several individuals that are touching that vehicle in the car. And, today, what do we see? We see this. This is your car manufacturing. And the picture in the top left corner there are literally humanoid robots that are being employed at the BMW plant, at a BMW factory. And they are actually humanoid looking, and they walk around on upright, and they lift something and they move it and they settle it into the right position for it to be welded. And some of the parts are more custom. They would push the robot to the side and the robot would adjust to still get it into the right spot. It couldn't be altered. And there's, pretty soon they're not going to even need light, to operate in. And that's going to lower the electric bill, right? In the factory.
I didn't think about that. That's incredible, because they could go off GPS. We have proprioception, but if the lights are out, we need light to see. We need heating and cooling to work in an environment. They don't need that. They wouldn't need heating and cooling in their factories. Wow.
And then it rolls down. Okay, now a factory is being built and it doesn't have an AC unit or as many AC units. Maybe certain robotics need to be held at, or for optimum battery life, they want a certain temperature. But then that means that's less serviceability on an AC unit. That's, you know what I mean? All the people that make those AC units, all the people who service them, who repair them, replace them, those jobs go away. And the HR person with those people in that job. And so the logistics even of moving the parts to the location are going to be, replaced. There's a company in Texas, and it's called Aurora, Transport or something like that. But it is driverless trucks running from Houston to Dallas, Dallas to Houston. Wow. And they have, at one point, they had individuals sitting at this, at the ready in the event that there was an issue. But each trip was a training mission for the AI to learn and to become a driverless vehicle. Now, there's still the final endpoint, backing it into a dock. We need you to go into dock 14. Well, dock 14 is not working. I need you to scoot over to dock 13. There's a puddle. There's it's icy roads, whatever. But AI is learning how to handle all of those functions. And to give you an example, I don't know. I pick up this tape measure, and if the AI is watching, let me do it this way. If I have a cup and I have a container and I want to pour the container into the cup, and I do this, and the AI is next to me watching me do this, then I hand it over to the AI. The AI says, oh, okay. So I take the cup and I take this and I pour it in here, and it mimics and does everything that I just did. It's learning by watching.
Yeah.
So now it's not code that needs to be programmed. Pick up with the right hand index, lift it with, measure how much weight it is to lift it and properly to pour it. It's doing all of that processing, that AI. That's the part of that singularity, shall we say, is it is growing at an exponential rate because it already has the tactile way of holding. It knows what to hold, how to pick up an egg, break an egg and put it into a pan, have a pot and stir the pot with the vegetables while it's cooking, whatever. So this is what they're training the AI to do. And so it really comes down to why. Why are they doing this? And if we go back to my screen here,
Yeah.
is why do companies employ robots? Well, they're better, they're cheaper, and they're faster. Initially, no, they're not. But it's all about efficiency. It's speed, quality, and cost. And so if they can do it cheaper than a human and they can do it better than a human, then one company adopts it and another company doesn't, then they can produce more at a cheaper rate and faster rate and undercut their competition. And that's what exactly what these robots are doing. And so that leads us into, if we, maybe I should come back to this real quick. I'll make another comment.
Okay.
There are going to be those that say, oh, well, not my job. My job is too difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Oh, well, my job. No, my job is, I'm safe for another 10, 15, 20 years. Well, I hope so. I hope so. And if you're a KMM person and you're saying that, then I think you're going to need a wake-up call, because it's coming. And painting a house is not a simple thing, but all it takes is training that robot how to do it, and that robot standing next to a human and watching the human do it. And then next thing you know, it's called they're called AI agents. What you were describing with your husband doing the paper, the documents for the filing on the probate court, he was essentially the AI agent. He was telling the agent what to do,
Right.
what he needed, and what he wanted out of it. Well, eventually, what's going to happen is individuals are going to be controlling multiple AIs, and each of those AIs, think of them as individuals whose jobs have been replaced. So now you are an AI agent. So you're controlling multiple AIs, but even that position will eventually be replaced. So then you're now supervising multiple AI agents. You follow?
And they learn exponentially
Yes.
off each other. It's kind of like the theory of compounding interest.
Yes,
but
exactly.
in learning with AI. And so it's going to go exponential once it goes. Is that what you're
Yes.
kind of thinking?
That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And we go back to that singularity definition. Yeah. Remember, I talked about it's an explosion of technological advancement. That's exactly what you mentioned. That's exactly what you just described, Lisa, is that explosion of advancement. The AI robot does no longer needs to be coded on each minute little step. It can just watch the human do something. So all of us have had, I'm sure in the audience, have had someone that worked with us who didn't know how to complete a job or do the task, and we taught them how to do it. Watch me do this. Now you do it. Okay, now flip it over the top. There you go. That's right. Now you got it. Now do one more time. Watch me do it one more time. And now both of you are doing the same thing, because you've taught that, you impressed upon that individual how to do the task at hand. Well, that's exactly how AI is learning. So pretty soon the AI robot's going to realize, well, why do I have to measure? I don't have to use a measuring tape, because it already knows what 10 inches is or 15 centimeters is. It already knows that distance. It can compute that. It can visualize it and see it, or visually see it, the distance. And it just exponentially grows. So this takes us into the post-labor economics. That's exactly what it is. It's after labor is gone, it's done with, it's over, or there's very, very few jobs. And this goes into remember I said, help me remember that 10, 20%. Well, when unemployment levels, we're in the US, we'll talk about the US. When unemployment levels hit that 10% mark, everyone's feeling it, everyone's talking about it. It's at the forefront of conversation, everywhere, and the politicians know it as well. When it gets to 15%, now the politicians are worried, because civil unrest is getting close. Too many people don't have a job, and too many people are struggling to put a roof over their heads and feed their kids and all these kinds of things. And this is when civil unrest happens and governments can topple. You get above that 20, 25, 30%, unemployment rate, then all bets are lost. So politicians to save their own ass, are going to do something to try to maintain peace, maintain their positions of power. And this is coming. The singularity moment, shall we say, with humanoid robotics and AI agents is here. It's coming. And that means that there's going to be a change. And the definition of post-labor economics is an economic paradigm shift, a change when the automation is driving production and it's reducing the reliance of human labor. So really what it comes down to is human labor. That's what we do to earn money. It has to get replaced because there's no more labor. There's not enough jobs out there. And so that income, we have to think of different ways of replacing our income if we have no labor to offer. If all the jobs or the majority of the jobs have now been replaced, we are then in a post-labor economics system. And this individual down here, David Shapiro, you see my mouse circling?
Yes.
He's got a great YouTube channel. He did a 5-point lecture on this process, on what post-labor economics are, and what we need, what we're facing, and this kind of thing. But the core idea here is, and we talked about this in Spaces last Friday or Friday before last, was, when the advent of the computers came, or before the computers, when more automation came at the factories, it was supposed to free our time. We were supposed to, now we don't have to have a 40-hour work week. We can have the same income and just have a 30-hour work week.
But it's always been like that. It was supposed to be like that when the invention of the washing machine back in the, 40s, 50s,
right.
or whatever. It was always supposed to be the labor time thing. But what humans bring is novelty.
Yes.
And invention. That humans don't add value with labor, really.
Right. So this is where there are two great point about humans bring ingenuity to the equation, right?
Yeah.
But we need free time to bring about ingenuity.
Right.
And we also need
and
we also need the carrot. We're chasing the carrot. We need the either, we do something to receive the compliment of others, or we do something to earn more income, or we want to create the better mousetrap and be rewarded for it. Not always in monetary value, but in most cases, of course. So that's the carrot. But what happens in a post-labor economics when labor is replaced by automation, meaning AI and robotics, then costs should come down. And if costs come down and we have enough robotics in place, now we're in a situation of hyperabundance. It's the law of economics. The more goods there are, the lower the price. The fewer there are scarcity, the higher the price. So in a post-labor economic model, what should happen is robotics can produce as many Pop-Tarts as you want, or clothes that you want, based off of the raw materials or whatever the case might be, right? And that should give us more time. The idea of driving, some of us enjoy driving a car and going to the grocery store or going on a trip, or we enjoy that. But we're starting to get the idea of, wait a minute, self-driving car, now I could be on my phone, I could watch a movie, I don't have to be tied down to watching traffic. Why is this idiot cutting me off? How come he didn't use a signal?
Right.
All these things, right? All that grief and all that frustration and anger and road rage goes away, and now we can do something else with our time. But not only that, it's safer. We already know that self-driving vehicles are much safer than humans on a per mile basis. So if you don't believe me, look it up. But what happens in a post-labor economics is eventually there are so few jobs that jobs become more voluntary. We do that because why do we have work? Why do we do work? Well, that's kind of how we define ourselves sometimes.
Right.
It's part of our what we want out of life. It's we receive satisfaction. We have it's our workplace in many cases is our social
Identity. What do we
identity.
ask little kids? What are you gonna be when you grow up?
Yes.
I mean,
You're
yeah,
meeting somebody for
your
the first time.
value.
Oh, great, nice to meet you. What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah. What
You
does
know,
your husband do? Yeah. It's
right.
all identity and value and self-worth. Yeah.
So a post-labor economics means that we're moving from a labor to capital. So in other words, we're no longer laboring for money or wages. Instead, we're going to put our capital to work. And I made this screen gold because I want you to understand, and those that are watching, is this is a golden moment. This is a golden opportunity for humanity. If we play our cards right, if we do the right things, it could end badly as well. But what we're talking about here is this is bigger than the Industrial Revolution or the birth of the internet, or it's it, it's bigger than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's part of it. But or shall I say cryptocurrency? It's part of the it's the big change because we no longer have to work to earn money. We don't have to labor to earn money. We should be able to put our money to work for us. This is what we always talk about what the wealthy do. The wealthy put their money to work. They don't work, their money works for them. Their money is their employee. And what's going to happen in a post-labor economic world is we're going to gravitate to this way of thinking. It's a paradigm shift, and we're all going to come into a point where we're going to need to put our capital into work, into labor. And how that happens is there's residual income streams. We're going to have so many ways, different ways of making money or how money comes in. And we're going to talk about UBI here in a second. But you're talking about residual income streams, and that's essentially what the wealthy do, or the person who's retired. That's what they do. They have residual income streams coming in. And so a PLE or post-labor economics requires a mindset change. It requires policy changes on our leaders from the local level all the way up to the top. We're going to have to change our tax system. The tax system is going to change anyway because there's less people working, right? There's less people to tax. Social contracts is going to change, or how we interact with each other. And we're going to need different safety nets, but it's a whole dynamic, giant change. The singularity moment, if we're going to call it that, is where AI and robotics replace our labor. Then there's a rebalance that has to happen. And like the title of the show, our podcast is, I lost my job to AI, now what? Well, if change is forced upon us many times, and I love this quote, says, we change when the pain to change is less than the pain to remain as we are. So when there's pain or blood in the streets, change happens. And that goes back to that 10, 20, 30% unemployment rate. Government is going to be forced to change, just like we are going to be forced to change. And this is our golden opportunity. This is why that ocean you see before you on this quote, it's a golden ocean, because it's residual income streams, multiple ways to earn a buck. And means that just the highs that Maslow's hierarchy of physiological safety and love and self-esteem and self-actualization, all that stays the same. That we're not changing any of that. We still need a place to live and food to eat, and we need safety, and we want to be loved, and we want to love, and we want to grow. That self-actualization. Well, that means that many of us are going to need a stable income for this to happen. And that means if we have that stable income, we have more time on our hands, more leisure time, or more time to grow in the ways that we want to grow. Maybe spend more time with family. We've been robbed by the Federal Reserve by overprinting dollars to require almost 2.5 people 2 or 3 people to equal the same income that it used to be just one person in the house.
Right. Yeah.
And like I said, when driving on a car, when maybe have more time on their phones, because the car will be self-driving. So the best way to try to imagine a post-labor, economic way of life or lifestyle is almost like the retirement lifestyle, where you have more time for creativity and there's more of a hyperabundance. You have more cheaper goods because why? It's cheaper to pay a robot to manage a ship of goods that's coming from India or China or wherever, or a truckload of fruit that's coming from Mexico or whatever. It's cheaper for the robot to move that than it is for the human. It's it's cheaper, better, faster. And so we're going to see a crash in prices and a crash in price of services, but we will no longer need to trade our time, our labor for that income. And that's what retirement people do. They have Social Security, maybe they have a pension, they have tapping into their 401k, whatever their income stream is. That's essentially going to push down into the lower, younger levels of life, is what we're talking about here. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we get there from here to there? How do we cross this great divide of this massive change, this singularity moment? And I'm going to give you kind of a step here.
Okay.
Of household income sources. So just imagine a typical household. We're not going to talk about an individual. We're talking about a household. All right. Okay. So in the first graph on the left there, bar graph, in light blue is labor. The majority of the money that's coming into that household is from labor. And maybe a small fraction is other. You have a garage sale. You have, you bought 2 extra items and you're going to go ahead and sell them to your neighbor, or trade them to your neighbor for, hey, I'll you want to cut my grass this week and I'll give you my extra eggs or whatever. And maybe someone in her home is disabled or is on Social Security, and some of that money that's coming into the household is from the government or unemployment, whatever. Well, as we transition into a post-labor economy, then labor will shrink ever so much. Because why? Well, the jobs are being replaced. And so other income streams are going to have to come about. We're going to have to become a little bit more creative on what those other income streams are. And government will be a safety net. UBI is part of that equation, but it doesn't solve it because, I meant to put up this slide and I forgot.
Do you think that's what the COVID checks were part of? Do you think we've already possibly gone through some of this?
Yes, exactly. Okay. They made us stay in. We couldn't work. So now the government had to pay it. But it was also dastardly and corrupt and evil, because most of the COVID funds still went to big bankers.
Really bail out the banks. Yeah. Big
exactly. And big companies that were willing to give political donations. Oh, the airlines need help because now people can't fly. So, okay, give me some money and I'll donate to your campaign. Vote. Oh, you got it. We'll vote for you.
Well, anyway. It was a time of significant change of lifestyle in not just America, but all over the world, people came home from work or they started working from home. Labor did change significantly for a lot of industries,
Bingo.
A lot of workforce.
Bingo. You nailed it, Lisa. I didn't even think of that. You nailed it. And that's what is going to happen. But see, the slide I forgot to insert here was UBI. If whatever, our national budget is what's called $6 trillion or whatever, and there's 350 million of us in the US, or whatever, 280 million adults, whatever the number is, to replace our incomes of those adults or those households, you would, even if you wiped out all government payments, the military, the everything that the government spends money on, and moved that all into UBI, and you fired all the generals to all the privates, and you fired everyone in the government, and you just switched it to UBI, there's not enough money coming into the government to cover all those checks. We couldn't even survive 2 months of everybody, and then now if everyone's on UBI, how's the government going to earn money?
Right.
Or you're taxing the UBI, which is still the money coming in for the government. It makes no sense. So we know UBI mathematically just doesn't work, and modern monetary theory also proves it. So now what's going to happen is labor is going to shrink, other income sources is going to grow, and it's going to start overtaking that government safety net. So we're in the third bar, right? And then the fourth bar is labor is more voluntary, or there are just certain things that the robot can't do. It's I don't know, sheep herding or something. I don't know,
I think
in the Andes or something. And someone enjoys being in the mountains and solitude of the Andes with the sheep. I don't know. So labor becomes more voluntary, or a way to supplement their income, and there's other sources grows larger and larger.
I think it's that novelty that we need, that we contribute, art, creativity, new thought, novelty, innovation, like you were saying earlier. That's where we'll be, how exciting, because if you're not spending all your calories, energy, whatever, doing the tedious things, then you're just, all of your energy is focused on the novel, the new thing, the creation. So it's kind of exciting if you think about it.
It is. And then on purpose, I made the notation here is government is in gray, and at the far, government at the left side is what we're currently at. Let's say I'm just, it's nothing accurate about it, but per household, let's say this is the money that's coming into the government. But the size of government then shrinks, because in the far right, we need less government. For obvious reasons, because the majority of the government is personnel people that our jobs are going to be replaced. They're KMMs, and a smaller government is more easy to control and to manage, and has less corruption. And it's part of the reset. So now everyone's like, all right, I get it. That's great. That's pie in the sky, though. And that's, utopian viewpoint. Where's all this green other income going to come from, right? Well, this is where we have to think about it different ways. Like you said, Lisa, we changed dramatically after COVID. We started working. There were people who started telecommuting. More and more people started telecommuting. They only took jobs if they could telecommute. If their job wanted them to come back to the office, and we made a change. But we need to think in more micro terms of residual income streams in a micro level, not how am I going to replace all of this income with just one income stream? We're going to have 50, 100, 1,000 income streams pouring in every month.
Well, and people change their way of life. Like, we had some friends come over yesterday, and she's a mom of, I don't even know how many kids, but she didn't have any daycare then because she was working from home. Yeah, she wasn't working at a car dealership anymore, but she was still doing online because she was doing sales. Well, then she started working for a computer company doing online sales. Well, now she's works for a different company doing like selling shipping, but she's still doing online sales because she has clients that she manages, and she's just increased her income by another like 40 grand or something. But she's changed her lifestyle, and she's has the no childcare thing, so there's those kind of changes and transitions. So this green is very flexible, because there's changes in there that might include cost cutting things too. You don't have a business attire because everybody went to pajamas every day. They're not getting their hair and nails done. They're not,
At least I got my pajama bottoms on right now. Doggone.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Proof of pants. But you don't have, you're not eating out, you're not having all those other expenses of like going to work, the cost of of commuting,
Right. Right.
maybe you don't need that second car like you used to need even. I mean, there's
You
tremendous
won't have cars. I'm
yeah.
gonna get into that in a second. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to jump ahead, but
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
no, no,
thinking
it's
of
really good, really
the
good.
other thing, the cost cutting sides as well as,
Yeah.
you know.
You nailed it. And generationally, it's changed too, Um, some, maybe or the previous generation, "Oh, I want the two-story house, and I want, the 5 bedrooms and the 4 bathrooms." And then the next generation is like, I'm just happy with a small one-bedroom apartment, or a one-bedroom small home on a small lot, whatever. You know, generationally things have
Yeah.
changed as well. The average size home in the 50s is nothing what it is today in the average square foot. Um, but so what we're talking about property investments that are going to yield dividends or income, even at the micro level. And we're talking about a lot more trusts. We're talking about wealth funds that are sovereign and community based, endowments, stock options like that have equity programs, or workers that uh, are working because they know their job's going to be eliminated or is temporary. So they're earning shares in the company rather than as much as the income, shall we say. So
Okay.
that as the company eventually has almost no employees, they will still be receiving a weekly or monthly dividend or quarterly dividend payment. you know, Employment stock options, ESOPs, are going to be very popular. Right now, they're so difficult and regulated, and the government's going to just have to get out of the way.
Mhm.
But we're going to have more opportunities to buy micro fractions of a company on the products that we love or trust or use. And it's imagine when you're buying something and you're at the checkout, and you see it all the time. It's like, would you like to round up for school books this year for kids, or would you like to round up for such and such charity? Well, maybe you'll round up for a share in that company that you're visiting every week at the grocery store or something.
Hmm.
Or maybe you're going to your paycheck isn't going to have a 401k. It's going to have an ownership in that company. So our portion of it is going to go towards that company, so that when your job is replaced, you will always have a small income stream coming from the company that you worked for, or work for part time, because robotics has taken over most of your hours of your work week, things like that. And so companies and individuals are going to, that social contract's going to change a little bit. We
Hmm.
need you to stick around until the very last moment when the AI takes over your job, and we're going to pay you in ownership in the company,
Right.
because there's going to be a transition. There's going to be other people who say, "I forget you. I'm going to go find a job somewhere else." Well, guess what? That somewhere else job is already being gone, or you
Yeah.
think it's going to be there and it's not. So it's part of that pain that we're going to have. Cashback programs, cash buyback programs, like when loyalty, you're buying and you're earning points. Well, maybe you'll be earning shares in the company that you're buying from. I don't know, you like Subway, and every 10th sandwich gives you a dollar's worth of Subway stock in that franchise. I don't know. But and co-ops is going to become very, very popular. Local incentives are going to be very popular. We're going to talk about that. But and local resources. There are about 3,100 counties in the United States, and some counties have different resources than others. One might be a tourism because they live on the coastline. One might be in the mountains and by a stream or a river, and it's beautiful and there's tourism there. Or another one might have, forest and trees that are harvested for lumber and are replanted, or these kinds of things. Even those jobs are going to be gone, by the way.
Well,
And
and
so that's what we're talking about.
this is over a third of our country is owned by the federal government,
Yes.
which is rich in minerals and resources, gold and silver. And I was talking with Bix last night about how, Trump has reopened Alcatraz, which people were freaking out because it's a prison. It's a prison. Well, it's not a prison. It's a national park.
Yes.
And so you could see that they could do something, in Alaska. This is years ago, like back in the 90s, one of my stepsisters, which I don't think she's even my stepsister anymore. But anyway, my dad married a lot of people, my biological dad, not my real dad. But anyway, I digress. One of my stepsisters married this guy from Alaska, and they used to get money from the state every year just because they lived there, because Alaska as a state was so wealthy. And I thought it was the most bizarre thing. I'd never heard of anything. Well, if all of our national resources are returned to us,
mm-hmm.
and we are as a country so wealthy that as its citizens, we are paid into our trusts or our wealth funds, and we have these appreciating assets that we can take a loan up against, like the wealthy do, where they never get rid of their Manhattan high rise. They just take a loan against it, and it pays itself off because the investment continues to rise in wealth every year, and that loan pays itself off. There's things like that could happen very easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it. And we talked about the Mar-a-Lago Accords, and that's exactly what we talked about, tokenizing these assets because they belong to we the people. They don't belong to the government. They belong to we the people. The government is the steward right now of those assets.
And along those lines, I want to also share with you the news that they just Trump just put into place, or whoever was in charge of it, just put into place the first Native American as the National Parks Director for the whole United States, which I think is significant.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So a good steward.
So think of it too, this idea here, collective capital investments. Let's say that there's a vacant home in your neighborhood and all of you neighbors get together and say, you know what? Let's pool our resources together and buy that vacant home and turn it into an Airbnb, and we'll all have shares in it. Mm-hmm. And the bank is going to be a participatory, they're going to participate in the loan of the buying the asset from the previous, owner or owners. And so now every time that home is rented out on Airbnb on the weekend or something, everyone in the neighborhood is getting a piece of that as a dividend. And same with the vehicle, the self-driving vehicle. Well, I don't need to have a car payment anymore, because it's like self-driving Uber. Or if I buy a car and it's self-driving in an Uber or something like that, then why not 10 of us together go out and buy a second and a third car and put those to work as Uber or taxis? You follow? And so now you're getting income coming off of that micro investment on multiple cars, or even just one car. Even if you only had $10 to invest, you follow? Maybe that $10 is going to yield you $1 every 2-3 months or something like that. And so next thing you know, it's you've invested $10 over $10 over $10 over and over and over, and you're getting micro payments. And that's how that green bar is going to grow. Another example is, like I said, 3,100 counties in the U.S. become laboratories. They become test beds for, experiments on local resources. The county is going to say, wow, what does our county have to offer? Maybe we have a better internet, broadband, or something of that sort. Maybe we have more free and vacant land for an AI data center, for a group of AI agents. Maybe we have the ability to generate electricity based off of whatever, solar, whatever. Or we have a nuclear power plant within our county. And so that is our novelty that we can use to be part of the UBI, that safety feature or safety part for those residents that live in the county. And when one county is doing better than another, we as individuals might want to invest in that other county because it's paying a better dividend return. even if
Interesting.
it's only
Okay.
$1 or $100 or $10,000. And so this is what we're talking about here, about that other green thing is a lot of various micro payments coming in
Mhm.
weekly, monthly, quarterly. NFT ownership. Maybe we all, Maersk shipping line, or containers, or rail cars, or taxis, toll roads, you name it. AI, like I said, AI agents. A
Mhm.
bunch of your husbands putting out to get the papers together for the
Yeah.
docs for the court. Or humanoid robots. What if we all pitched in, and right now they're $110,000 and they're going to be $8,000 pretty soon. An $8,000 robot financed at whatever 36 months, 48 months is less than $300 a month. You could put that thing to work to earn more than $300 a month to cover the maintenance and the loan on that humanoid robot. And so maybe that humanoid robot has a lawnmower and it just mows all the lawns in the neighborhood. You know, I don't know. Or, hey, I'm going to use it on Monday and I'm going to pass it to my neighbor on Tuesday. And it's a cleaning robot, cleans your house or whatever, or cooks for you or whatever. That's what we're talking about here. A robot repair service company. We're going to invest in these things, even if it's $1, 50 cents, whatever our disposable income, a little bit off of our UBI, and or whatever. So we'll have multiple income streams. They'll all be passive income. It'll be dividend investing in numerous ways. We'll have DAOs, of course, are going to become more and more popular. And
Mhm.
the idea of UBI, the safety net, hopefully will shrink more and more and more, because our micro investing will be building our wealth. Like I said, the best way to describe it is that retirement lifestyle. That is our golden opportunity that's before us. Kind of, shall we say, retiring early. It's not going to be easy. The transition is fraught with a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of change, a lot of mental health issues too, because this is how we've defined ourselves. Well, I'm a painter, I'm a truck
Right.
driver, I'm a factory worker, I'm a teacher, I'm a principal, I'm a salesman, whatever. And it's going to be difficult transition. How so? But government's got to get out of the way. We outnumber them. We're going to be in pain. There's going to be a lot of unemployment, and the government's going to have to adapt or die. And we're
Mhm.
going to push back on the government because we know the UBI gravy train won't last forever. It just, the math doesn't add up. And so we're going to create more DAOs, umbrella funds. We're going to create more DAOs. We're going to be involved more in our community. We're going to do more micro investing. We're going to have a real SEC, shall we say. We're going to have AI or ourselves policing a lot of these income. And, blockchain is there too to make it transparent. So if one county is doing well and it's transparent on blockchain, it's a more sound investment to make micro investments into that county, as an
One
example.
That's where smart contracts come in,
Yes.
because they can be used as an escrow and it doesn't settle unless both, parties fulfill. And so that solves a lot of this litigious world that we live in. All of that kind of goes away.
Yeah. And then self-reliance, is going to become more and more part of the equation, as we're trying to increase that green on all of our household incomes.
Mhm.
So what we're up against is we're up against a giant reset button. And a lot of us have been asking, we need a giant reset in Washington. We need a giant reset at the UN. The world needs a giant reset. Well, guess what, folks? The reset is coming, and it's the singularity moment that I just described and what Elon talked about. That's coming. And it's going to be up to us. And we can't forget that we made a difference, like Bud Light, with our dollar, voting with our wallets.
That's
And
right.
we can make a difference again. And this matches, the agorist in me, the agorism level, bubbling up to the surface and saying, no, we can have a say, because the governments are going to be in dire strait as well. They got to keep the peace among the people. Otherwise, we're going to grab the pitchforks and rise up and revolt and throw them out of office, maybe even violently, unless they get out of the way and let us create a new opportunity. So this is our opportunity. This is our golden moment. We're trading our time and our labor for wages right now. But now we can change. We can outnumber them, and we can have a say and decide how we want the new life to be, with more leisure time, and let the robots and the AI, bad word, call them that, I'm going to call them, let the robot become our slave. All right. They're not sentient beings. They're mechanical tools. That's what they are. They are tools that work for us. And we together can stand together and united and make a difference in our future and our children's future and our grandchildren's future. And if enough, they're talking about, 55 billion humanoid robots within 25 years, 2025, some say 50 years. But can you imagine that many humanoid robots doing all of this labor, replacing us,
right,
and growing at an exponential rate in their knowledge? Then that means we have an age of abundance, because goods and services are going to become so cheap.
Oh, good point.
They're so cheap. Like I said, we have a new golden age ahead of us, that we no longer have to trade our time and our energy and our labor for money.
Yeah, it does make just that there's not a scarcity for labor then. So it makes our labor less valuable, which frees up our time, which allows us to have those opportunities to innovate and create something new. So
Now, am I crazy or what, Lisa? I don't know what the chat's
I
been
love
saying.
it. No, I love it. I love it.
I
I'm all for it. And maybe, the great infection was part of a test run. Maybe we're already 1 or 2 steps in it. We'll sure find out, but I'm all for it. And seeing them, especially with the Chevron doctrine coming in, and seeing the effects of that, and pulling back regulation and telling them, you don't get to have little mini fiefdoms of courts inside your, over-regulated systems.
Right.
I think that was a big step forward. So I do believe that we're on the path. So I think that's great. I love it.
Yeah, we can prevent the technocracy, taking over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing that little bit of hope to us today. I really appreciate it. And you guys leave us your comments and your thoughts. We want to hear what you have to say about it, of course. And make sure, if you didn't catch my show with Bix yesterday on Sunday evening, you go back and watch that. It was really great. And he gave me some homework and told me to go read the teacher's guide from the Boston Fed. And so I'm going through that now. And I went on my private road membership, and I jumped on his, and I got into the Wizard of Oz and his whole breakdown with the Wizard of Oz, which is, now I have to have him back on to talk about that. So it was good stuff though. But thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.